This is a message that civil society representatives are desperately shouting at the COP21 ahead of the second and last week of climate negotiations in Paris. Officials say everything is ready to deliver a global legally binding agreement on Friday and have praised the participation of all the parties involved in the United Nations Climate Change Conference.
That by Wednesday there will be a new text released, and then there will be some final review on final text by Thursday, and by Friday, hopefully, we should have an agreement. Ambitious, universal, and strong.
But the Secretary General also said that the so-called Paris Agreement will not be perfect, and neither will its implementation. This is exactly what civil society groups are afraid of.
Yes, they actually agreed on a negotiating text that was released yesterday, and we know that it's so far away from what the world needs today in order to survive the climate crisis. So we're here to step up our protest and to call for the countries, the governments, to do what they must do.
Over the weekend, thousands participated in the Alternative Summit, where they expressed the demands from individuals around the world. These, they say, are the voices that must be heard on par with those of the powerful entities brokering the climate change deal.
So the idea for us is to get the message that the wealthy are not going to escape from us, that we are going to go where they are so that they get the laws they need to respect our planet.
We're very clear that what's going to happen in terms of that outcome is basically a death warrant for people and the planet.
Environmentalists are planning several actions for this week as the world leaders continue taking part in the conference. Diplomatic sources say that a group of world powers led by the United States are lobbying to stop small countries from pushing to include a point in the agreement, which will essentially force big emitters to economically compensate those poorer nations affected by climate change. Climate talks continue here in Paris, but civil society groups say that rich countries don't want to pay their historic debt ahead of what could be a global binding agreement on climate change. Luis Arroyo, teleSUR, Paris.
Speaking during a military graduation ceremony, President Juan Manuel Santos insisted on the crucial role that Colombia's armed forces will play in the wake of the transition from 50 years of war to peace.
We're going to need our armed forces in order to guarantee a stable and long-standing peace. Our armed forces will have to adapt to the new country that we will be constructing once we end the war and silence the rifles.
Given that the country will face a key moment once a final peace deal is reached, some lawmakers have raised concerns regarding a list of nearly 40 officials expected to be promoted, some of whom have questionable backgrounds.
Officials that are under investigation for issues that can be classified as crimes against humanity, for serious corruption, or for links with drug trafficking, shouldn't be promoted until those investigations are entirely cleared up.
Many have insisted that the challenges ahead of the peace process are not minor, and as such, the military leadership should be reshuffled. One of those challenges is the issue of paramilitarism.
We need generals that are much more open to post-conflict issues and the implementation of the peace agreements. They also need to be willing to retake many areas of the country from paramilitarism, as well as dismantling those groups.
For human rights advocates, a redefinition of Colombia's military doctrine and practices comes as imperative for the construction of peace.
What we basically need is an armed force that assures compliance with the Constitution and guarantees the rights and freedoms of society rather than continuing to protect the privileges and interests of a few powerful political sectors that exercise control over the territories in the regions.
The lawmakers highlight that at stake is the promotion of military personnel who will be charged with the responsibility of peace and not any more war. Natalia Margarita, teleSUR, Bogotá.
The new National Assembly might not meet until January, but this is the first street assembly. Grassroots supporters of the revolution have come to debate, exchange ideas and strengthen the revolution.
It is the assembly of the people's movement, where it's us who guide where the ship goes, together with our president.
It's not 3 days since the Venezuelan Socialist Party lost parliamentary elections, but activists are back out on the street. The mood here, just down the road from the presidential palace in Caracas, is anything but sober.
We have 17 years of revolution in the streets. The streets belong to the people, and we're not going to leave them.
Meetings like this are happening around the country, as President Nicolás Maduro called on Chavistas to reflect on the electoral defeat that saw the opposition gain a supermajority.
In defense of our beautiful revolution, Chavez's people are in the streets because they can win the assembly. But they do not win the Chavista people. The Chavista people are going to be in the streets defending their revolution, as always.
The government hopes that meetings like this will help them reconnect with everyday Venezuelans. They have been criticized for being overconfident and complacent in the support of the people.
The people today have more strength than before, because we are not going to lose heart, we are not going to be scared off. No, we are going to have more strength to continue forward.
The optimism of the crowd belies the fear that when the opposition takes over the assembly, it will make sweeping changes to the social gains. But for now, they are defiant, optimistic and not going to take defeat quietly. Isabel Fimbo, teleSUR in Caracas.
Hamas-affiliated armed movement, the Izz al-Din al-Qassam Brigades, has erected several memorials in the main squares in Gaza City, aiming to mark their battles with the Israeli armed forces. In March 2014, Hamas armed wing unveiled a rocket-shaped statue at the Al-Jala Square, Western Gaza City, showcasing its capacity to strike Israel. M75 rockets fired from Gaza during the 2012 war struck areas 75 kilometers inside the perimeter around Tel Aviv and Jerusalem.
These memorials are symbols of our Palestinian cause. This rocket-shaped model reminds us that it struck the heart of Tel Aviv during the war. The tank reminds us that we once destroyed Amekava and abducted Israeli soldiers from it. Each memorial has a memory in our hearts. When I see these memorials, I feel very proud of the victories of our resistance.
In another part of Gaza City, the Commandos Memorial was put up at Gaza Port in August 2015. It simulates one of Al-Qassam Naval Commandos units, which infiltrated from the sea into Israel's Zakim Navy base northern Gaza on the first day of the 2014 summer war, causing deaths among Israelis. Last but not least, a Merkava tank-shaped memorial was erected at Maidan Palestine Square, eastern Gaza City last July. An iron chained arm comes out through its middle, with the name of the Israeli soldier Shaul Aron, who is in Hamas captivity, carved on it. Hamas armed wing have repeatedly destroyed several Merkava tanks in Israeli ground incursions during the 2014 summer war against the Gaza Strip. Nur Harazin, teleSUR TV, Gaza.